Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. The head of the Western Alliance, NATO, and President of Poland are rejecting claims that a missile strike that hit a Polish farmland and killed 2 people Tuesday was a deliberate attack by Russia, a claim Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky made. Jens Stoltenberg, head of NATO, says Ukraine's likely launched the Soviet-era projectile as it was fending off a Russian air assault that savaged its power grid.
Our preliminary analysis suggests that the incident was likely caused by a Ukrainian air defense missile fired to defend Ukrainian territory against Russian cruise missile attacks. But let me be clear, this is not Ukraine's fault. Russia bears ultimate responsibility as it continues its illegal war against Ukraine.
The missile came down Tuesday as Russia launched missiles and exploding drones. Poland said the missile was Russian-made. U.S. President Joe Biden said it was unlikely Russia fired it. 3 officials from the U.S. said preliminary assessments suggest it was fired by Ukrainian forces at an incoming Russian missile. Authorities say nearly half of the Kiev region has lost power, and more than a dozen other regions, among them Lviv in the west, Kharkiv in the northeast, reported power outages affecting cities that together have millions of people. The U.S. strongly condemned Russia's new missile attacks on Ukraine, saying they appear to have hit residential buildings, the capital of Kiev, and elsewhere in the country. In the U.S., former President Donald Trump has announced he will run for president again in 2024.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Trump is hoping to move on after voters rejected many of his high-profile candidates, including Mehmet Oz in the Pennsylvania Senate race. Trump, though, defended his record, claiming 232 of the candidates he endorsed won. Only 22 lost, and he said the country can't take 4 more years of a Biden administration. Trump may have to stave off a long list of potential challengers, including Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who's cruised to a landslide re-election victory and is now being urged by some in his party to run for president as well. Democrats are hailing their win of the Senate and Arizona's governor's race. Despite clear signs Republicans will take the House chamber, Alex Gonzalez reports.
We chose sanity over chaos, and we chose unity over division. We chose a better Arizona, and we chose democracy.
Democrat Katie Hobbs is projected to win the race for Arizona governor, defeating her Republican opponent, former TV news anchor Carrie Lake. The high-profile race was marked by sharp rhetoric by Lake, an election denier, and protesters contesting the results, which became more clear a week after Election Day, as vote totals from the state's most populous counties came in. Hobbs is the state's first Democratic governor since Janet Napolitano in 2006. In celebrating his party's midterm win to retain a narrow majority in the U.S. Senate, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said Democrats are going to continue working across party lines, but will stay true to the party's principles.
What happened last night with Carrie Lake, that's proof positive that this MAGA stuff doesn't work. She was a great communicator. She still lost in a purple state.
Schumer added he hopes Republicans and Democrats can continue to work in a bipartisan way and make compromises when possible. Despite several races across the country still waiting to be called, it's likely the GOP will gain control of the House. I'm Alex Gonzalez for Pacifica Network and Public News Service.
Senate Democrats are moving ahead with legislation to protect same-sex and interracial marriage today. The bill has gained momentum since a Supreme Court decision overturned the federal right to abortion, and an opinion at the time from Justice Clarence Thomas suggested reassessing same-sex marriage rights. In the Senate, they will need at least 10 Republicans to vote with all Democrats to advance the legislation. It would ensure same-sex and interracial marriages are legally recognized nationwide. The climate change minister of Nauru has denounced wealthy nations for doing little to help his Pacific country deal with the climate crisis. His comments come as a COP27 climate summit in Egypt grapples with how to adapt to a warming planet and pay for the damage climate-fueled weather disasters are already causing. Eileen Alfandary reports.
United Nations climate official Simon Steele said a newly published report on climate finance estimated just how much funding is needed.
The report identifies the need for a breakthrough and a new roadmap on climate finance, seeking to mobilize $1 trillion per year in external finance that will be needed by 2030.
While the nations of the world seem unlikely to come up with the $1 trillion or more needed yearly to address the climate crisis, they are coming up with double that amount for military spending. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, world military expenditures topped $2 trillion last year. The U.S. spent about $800 billion alone on its military. For Pacifica Radio, I'm Eileen Alfandary.
I'm Christina Onnested reporting for Pacifica Radio.